Should be.
Life before I met the Lord. I was born into a loving family, dysfunctional and alcoholic. Mom and dad and 3 older brothers, 12 and 15 years older. From what I heard, the boys were the ultimate. In my eyes, I didn't make the grade. Thus, my addiction was behavioral and trying to please my parents, my brothers, and Joe Public. So I set out to do more. When working cattle with my dad, he used to say, if I have to tell you, the wreck's already on. And those of you that work cattle, sometimes it's nice to have a verbal rather than an assumption. Or he would say, wherever that cow goes, you go. Didn't matter what the terrain was. Mind reading became ultimate. If I can be in the right place and take care of issues at hand, I'm good enough. This took me down a disastrous road. Growing up in an alcoholic home with many ups and downs, Dad thought he could come into my room early the next morning after hearing the 2 of them arguing and slamming glasses down, and then he'd apologize to me. Due to trying to please was challenging. I learned to drive a Jeep and a cat at 5. Dad needed a helper. I filled my life with animals, dogs, cats, rabbits, and then a horse. They all filled a void, and people were kept at a distance. As time went on, I married fresh out of high school, and God's gift is my son Todd, my daughter Corrine, and their beautiful families. However, my life and marriage was faulting. The kids were in high school, and their dad and I divorced. The second marriage included trying to combine 2 families, be a working partner to my husband. He was president of a family-owned ranching business, and a trip to town to visit the banker to borrow operating money. Pride, ego, made me feel a part of the business. Thus, I co-signed the note. The banker told me I didn't have to. I'd worked at that bank. Trying to please, I went ahead and signed. None of the other family members in the corporation did. And not too long afterwards, a spring storm turned us upside down. He and I had a $1 million bankruptcy. In bankruptcy court, you were allowed 1 horse and 1 saddle to start over. And this included our kids. Times were very tough, and we had no factory. We had no livestock because of the storm. To start over, we walked away from a way of life that we so loved. We tried to start over, and the stress was high, and I was diagnosed with MS. The tools to handle this type of crisis were extremely dull, they were rough, and sometimes non-existent. And he divorced me. We were working for the same company in different departments, and I really wanted no part of him. So I moved to another state because I wasn't good enough, because I didn't or wouldn't let God or anyone else in. Sometime later on, the next chapter, I'm still a mess. I met a man who swept me off my feet. I was hooked. I was sure if I did enough that he'd truly care. He didn't. He didn't have the capacity or the desire. It was all about him. I moved out and back in several times. One time with a few of my things in the car, my dog, and leading my horse out the window because I knew the vet around the corner and I could put my horse there. Once again, I was going my own way with no thoughts of God. I had met a gal around my age and we became connected, her spirituality and me feeling safe. I started going to church. I felt such a peace and acceptance for just being me. Looking forward to retirement, I decided I best get my medical life in order. So I went in to have my mammogram, and I was diagnosed with a very aggressive breast cancer. And soon I began chemo treatment. He was off and on regarding support, and due to treatment and breast surgery, I started sleeping in the spare bedroom. I felt I was heading in the wrong direction, separated from God. However, I had time to think and pray. As I began to gather strength, I felt a spiritual presence. There was a strong, strong feeling to drive to Wyoming and visit Corrine and Jared and their family. Through our visit, their love, prayers, I started to understand that we are all broken, and that's how the light gets in. It was time to get a new start, so I moved to Wyoming. The connection on this Mother's Day and life between the three of us, Corrine, Josie, and myself, will always be our peace and our strength with the Lord in nature and a few good horses. In God's eyes, through Christ, I'm good enough.